All right, I'm here with Dr. Bach Ho. Hello, Bach.
Hi, Galina. Great to see you.
It's so good to be with you. And I want to jump right in. Would you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do in the world? And then I have so many questions for you.
Yes, I'm Dr. Bach Ho. I'm a doctor, which means everything I say is true. I have a PhD in philosophy. I was a philosophy professor for a decade, and then I got into a healing and growth modality called organic intelligence, which I think is awesome, which I'm passionate about. I do videos on it, I write on it, I work with the founder on it, founder Steve Hoskinson, and I'm an organic intelligence coach. And I've known you, Galina, for many years, and it's good to be with you.
It's fantastic to be with you. I had the good fortune of having Steve Hoskinson as my beginning year teacher when I was learning somatic experiencing, and then got to follow in the steps of what has happened through organic intelligence. And it's just been an honor to know you and to see your growth in the modality and your work as an organic intelligence coach. I'm an avid subscriber to your Substack. And I was just telling you off the screen, I've been telling my students to subscribe because everything that you share is so sharp and to the point. And somehow it seems like is universal enough that every day I read something from you, it's exactly what I need that day.
Wow, you just gave me some positive sensations in my chest. Thank you very much. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of pleasure from your compliments and your endorsement. Thank you very much.
Oh, I am so glad. And you're not here to talk with me about pleasure. You're here to talk with me about pain. So let's switch lanes a
Yes,
little
yes,
bit.
I'm all about pain and advocating for pain and discomfort. Yes,
Absolutely. I know that you're saying that with a straight face.
yes.
Poker game would be fun with you.
Uh,
So here's why we're here. We're here because I work with people who struggle in their relationship with food. Most people come to me because they're dealing with some variation of emotional eating or cycles of restriction and overeating, and also people who, for them, it's gone extreme enough where it's in the territory of disordered eating or a feeding disorder. And within that, the nervous system is a major player. And I know that from an organic intelligence perspective, you look at addiction and compulsive and excessive behavior in a very different way than any other modality. And my first question for you is what is addiction to pain or to unpleasantness?
yes, thank you. Um, you're working primarily, I'm going to answer your question. You're working primarily with people who have difficult relationships and complex relationships around food, right? Uh,
Yes, and often around alcohol, work, porn, shopping. It doesn't have to be just
okay.
food.
Oh, I see. Okay. And I know you introduced me as sharp and to the point. I will answer your question, but I feel like I want to say something a little a little unguarded, simplified, a little risky, but let me just say it very clearly. Enjoy your French fries, enjoy your ice cream, enjoy your food, enjoy your porn, enjoy pleasure, enjoy your drink at night or whatever, enjoy life, enjoy pleasure. Now there's an asterisk, and the asterisk is the subject of today's of our free association conversation. But I want to just start at the outset, since people tend to remember what happens at the beginning and the ending, and the middle is just whatever. So at the beginning, enjoy your food, enjoy your gluten. I can't have gluten, so have gluten for me. Enjoy your dairy. All right. So now let's get into that asterisk after that unguarded statement. Most people think of addiction as addiction to the pleasure, the intense attraction to the ice cream, to the porn, to the drink, and also to pain relief. I'm under threat of pain, or I'm in pain, so let me do the carbs, let me do the show binging, the porn, or whatever, and I'll feel better. So they think of addiction as addiction to pleasure, and they associate that with pain relief. From an organic intelligence perspective, that is and is more fundamentally addiction to pain. Your biology trends towards pleasure or pain relief because it trends towards pain. And
Mhm.
understanding it as addiction to pain is important for beginning to de-shame pleasure. And it's important to uphold pleasure as a completely good, healthy, positive value. And towards this end, we want to distinguish it from pleasure that's hooked to pain.
Mhm.
So addiction, according to organic intelligence, you could understand it as addiction to pleasure and pain relief. And we're also loudly adding it's addiction to pain. It's the same thing. Whether you say addiction to pain or addiction to the pain relief, it's the same thing. Another concept you can add here is intensity. I didn't put this in the Substack post that we may be pinging on that inspired this conversation. But in addition to thinking of addiction as addiction to pain/pain relief, you could think of it as addiction to intensity. Your biology is addicted or gravitates irresistibly towards states of intensity. It's intense inside, and that intensity comes in the form of pain and discomfort, and also the reaching for the alleviation of pain and discomfort. So addiction is addiction to pain or pain relief or intensity. You could think of it as also as you're addicted to a glob of pain, pleasure, pain relief, pleasure, intensity, all a glob. Whether it's whether the specific behavior is standardly classified as an unhealthy addiction like drugs, alcohol, or whether it's regarded as a healthy thing like cognitive behavioral therapy worksheets that you do every day to feel better, or you do yoga or Pilates or yoga nidra or cold plunges and you feel better. So we're actually abstracting away from whether the addiction is quote unquote healthy or unhealthy. I mean, that matters, but at this abstract level, if the biology is addicted, if it gravitates towards intensity, that glob of intensity/pain/pain relief/pleasure, and it applies equally to quote unquote healthy addictions as to quote unquote unhealthy addictions. I feel like I've gone on for a bit. I have more, but I'm just going to pause to see if you want to do something here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I might just want to digest this a little bit, both for my and your listeners, my students, and for myself, is that the classical view of addiction is that we're looking for something that is pleasurable. And here we're actually looking at what happens before the thing that is pleasurable, which is something uncomfortable is happening. And that
Yes.
there is an oscillatory pattern. There's an oscillation between the uncomfortableness, the unpleasantness, and then the pleasantness that follows. And what you so beautifully put in the beginning of our conversation was enjoy. Enjoy your French fries, enjoy your croissants if you can have them. I know you and I can't, but some
Yeah.
people can. Enjoy, just relish, savor for the sake of enjoyment, for the sake of pleasure itself, where it's uncoupled, it's not overcoupled with pain first. And I think there's something in our experience in the culture around food, around dieting, around wellness that really has created this diet cycle that feeds on the addiction to intensity and the addiction to pain, where there's restriction that goes with a lot of negative affect, lots of negative emotions, and then there's the relief that people feel when they finally break the diet, but it's not a real relief because then
Yes.
what follows right after is more unpleasantness and more, whether it's attack of the self or attack of other, there's some kind of a shame color that will show up when that happens. And I find that that's very unfortunate, but that plays within the biology, the individual biology, and then the collective biology of the addiction to intensity and the trending towards pain. And so my next question for you is, why does that happen? Why would an organism that, has in its, I'm imagining that in the blueprint somehow we want to survive and we want to thrive. why would the system trend towards pain and unpleasantness?
Uh, First answer, I don't know. Second answer, a million things. Here you get, well, it's the ACEs study, trauma from childhood. It's your native DNA, something with your biology. It's something passed down to you from parents. I will admit to you, I don't like that question. I'm not trying to sabotage what you're doing, hijack, but it's because the answer is a million things and we don't know in any given individual case how you got up to where you are. My interest, so I am kind of dodging. Well, I gave you an answer, but I'm also trying to signal that I am half dodging and wanting to dodge because I think the more important question is what to do. It's like, was it a forceps birth and I have trauma, or was it, something happened to me as a kid, or was it 10 generations ago, or is it something in the air, or is it I mean war? I mean, who knows? I mean, a million things and who knows is would be my
Mhm.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great
Okay.
answer.
Okay.
That's a great answer. I'm very happy with an answer of it could be a million things because it's usually in every person at least 1,000 things.
Right. So and I think my answer, I believe my answer, which is I don't know, who knows, and it's a million things. And we have a bunch of examples of it, and you can get deep into AI querying many, many different things, Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then what you said was you're more interested as a professional, as your personal and professional interest in what to do about it.
Yeah.
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 Would you be willing to tell me more about that?
Yes, you have to do two things. I'll tell you, I'll do practical first and then explanation after. The two things that you have to do are orientation and pleasure. Orientation and pleasure. Orientation refers to connecting your senses to the environment around you, seeing, hearing, touching, and this is a little bit less practical all the time, but tasting and smelling. Your five senses, you want to connect your five senses to the environment. That is called orientation. I'll keep it simple like that for now. There's more to say about what exactly it is, but that's for now, for our purposes, that's orientation. That's the first thing you have to do, and the more important thing. The second thing you have to do is go for pleasure, pleasure that is healthy, not addictive, not too intense, and wholesome. So those are the two things that you have to do. Do them as much as you can. Of these two, the first is more important, orientation. Those are the two.
Oh.
Because, and for an addicted biology, if you're addicted to intensity or pain and pain relief, that glob of intensity, pain, and pain relief, that means that your biology does not have stable access to neutral,
Mm-hmm.
to I'm just here, I'm okay, I'm chilling, I'm comfortable, I'm neutral. It does not have stable access to that state. Instead, it natively is jacked up on intensity, which could be pleasurable, painful, or both. It's that glob of intensity of pain, pain relief, pleasure, intensity. That's your default state of your biology as opposed to stable, neutral. What what does stable neutral feel like, and what is the fundamental mark of stable neutral? It's orientation. When intensity in your biology is not too high, you will be oriented because your biology, your attention naturally wants to connect to the immediate environment around you, to see the sky and the trees outside. That's something it naturally wants to do. We want to orient, to place ourselves in the environment. And you may find yourself doing that when you're at a park bench, you're just orienting. And then something happens. You get a text and your friend or enemy says, fuck you, I hate you. And then suddenly your attention is no longer on the sky. Sorry for cursing, I'm not sure the rules of this, but the sky and the trees. Now your attention is inward and you're thinking of, you're in interior intensity about the hostile message you just got. So when intensity is too high, there's less orientation. When intensity calms down, there's more orientation. Orientation is the fundamental sign that you are at neutral, comfortable baseline. And
Mhm.
practicing orientation can help build that trait in your system. And secondarily, pursuing healthy, low intensity, non addictive, wholesome pleasure can also help move your system towards that baseline. So, orientation and pleasure are the two.
Yeah. That's really, really helpful. And to bridge this to language that I use with my students from the perspective of something like polyvagal theory, this would be a ventral state. That would not be a sympathetically driven state or a dorsally driven state. It's a state of presence where there's low enough stress and generally an absence of threat. So the thresholds of the senses, and I'm using the word threshold here very differently than it's used in organic intelligence, but like if each sense was a door, like the doorways of the senses are open and they're open to the environment because we can use our senses in a defense mode as well. But orientation is a particular use of the senses that connects instead of disconnects. That's my understanding.
Yes. If you're having a verbal argument with someone and you're angry and your eyes are locked on them, yes, your senses are connected to the environment. My eyes are locked on the person I have anger towards. That's not orientation. That's not orientation here. Orientation refers to your eyes can relaxedly, effortlessly look around, and
Mhm.
you could actually pivot from fighting with your friend and being angry to smelling a rose or looking at a rose. That's orientation, because that indicates that the intensity interior is not so high that it's controlling your attention. It's controlling your attention and having you look at your friend with or your enemy with anger. If intensity is not so high, you have more intentional control, and naturally you'll be able to let the eyes go where they want to go. For example, to a rose, to smell it, to look
Mhm.
at it, to touch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just this whole idea of exploratory orienting as opposed to defensive orienting, which is a very different mode of how we attend to the world. And what I'm hearing you say, I want to repeat this for the listeners, is that when you have orientation online, when the senses are connected with the environment in this exploratory way, that is a marker of neutral or slightly pleasurable, which is the mode in which we can, over time, kind of in a way, it's like cultivating these states that turn into a trait that allow the system over time to be more capable of staying in neutral pleasurable instead of swinging, oscillating into high intensity or low intensity, as is the dorsal space, unpleasantness.
Yes. And getting stable access to neutral will enable you to experience higher and higher intensity pleasure over time without swinging to pain. So the end goal is not, I'm neutral, I'm chill. I'm not in high pain. I'm not in high pleasure. I'm not even in moderate pain or moderate pleasure. I'm just neutral. The goal is not neutral. Neutral is just the first achievement for now, getting stable access to neutral. And then within neutral, to the extent you have stable access to orientation, which is neutral, your biology will go through cycles of excitation and relaxation in pleasure, pleasurable excitation. I'm in neutral. My friend told a joke, just said a joke. I'm laughing. I'm not concerned about what other people in the restaurant are thinking about me or why they're staring at me. I'm just enjoying. And then I laugh, and then the laugh finishes, and I relax in pleasure. Over time, you will be able to experience higher and higher levels of pleasure without swinging to pain. So at present, you may not have that capacity. So at present, you may go on a date with someone and really like them, and it's very pleasurable. And then when the date is over, you can't sleep and you're crying because you'll think they'll reject me, I'll never see them again. So you had high pleasure, the date, but the pleasure was beyond capacity. So you
Mm.
swung to pain at night. If you build orientation, you can go on the date, experience intense pleasure, and then deactivate at night alone in your room at 2 a.m. pleasurably. She may reject you, he may reject you, or they may want a second date or whatever, but the deactivation will be pleasurable. So neutral for now. itself is a giant achievement, and which opens the door to being able to experience higher and higher levels of intensity of pleasure without swinging to pain.
This really throws me into thinking about how my students are challenged with exercise. Like when you haven't exercised for a long time, and then you begin something and it's enjoyable, but it's over the threshold of what you can enjoy, and how often there's injuries or chronic pain will show up, or we'll be chasing pain like, oh, it's my shoulder, then it's my knee, then it's my ankle, then it's my occiput. There's always something, and they feel like, oh, I make a little progress, and then there's like this big backlash from my biology. And so there's a loss of trust. There's a lot of like, why is my body doing this? As opposed to actually understanding you can only grow within the capacity that you have for neutral or pleasurable.
Yes. One giant question that's really important practically here is, what is discomfort? What does
Mhm.
it feel like to be uncomfortable? Am I comfortable or am I not comfortable? How can I tell? How can I be sure? Do I even know? Do I have the compass? So for people who do not have orientation, their biology is inherently uncomfortable. It's inherently jacked up on intensity. Their compass for what counts as comfortable or uncomfortable, pleasurable or painful is off. So their norm is, oh, I'm comfortable, because they associate comfortable with whatever the norm, the baseline is. And
Right.
then so they exercise too much. They think it's pure pleasure, but it's actually that glob of pleasure, pain, intensity, pain relief. So it's important to get orientation on board so that you have a compass for what
Mhm.
counts as actually purely pleasurable and comfortable as opposed to uncomfortable. And then when you do life, that compass will protect you from over threshold intensity. And even if you do go over threshold in pleasure and swing to pain over time, you'll just learn as you live, as the compass grows, how to not do that. You'll learn what pleasure is, and you'll be able to pursue pleasure within orientation. And that's the holy grail.
That sounds like such a hopeful place. And I know when I was first starting to learn with Steve and then continue with other teachers within the somatic work, this would have sounded like utopian, almost like, wow, how is this even possible? Because there was no blueprint in my own body, nor not for orientation and not for pleasure, or no pleasure without pain.
Yeah.
And my own system was really, really swinging in like highs and lows of intensity, pleasure and pain, pain and pleasure. And I played it out both through my eating disorder and through my exercise compulsion, and also through like medical issues that would just recur at regular intervals, like having 100 UTIs in a row, like that kind of like really, really painful stuff. And I find that with sometimes without the theoretical understanding of whether it's complex systems or understanding the basics of organic intelligence or just how biology works, this can sound a little bit abstract. And I'm very grateful that you've given such really, really good examples. For dessert, before we finish, is there something that you could leave listeners with that is something they could do today to begin to shift their relationship within orientation and pleasure?
Yes. If it's unpleasant, uncomfortable, or impossible to orient where you are right now, like you try to let your eyes go where they want to go and it doesn't work because your attention just sucks you back in, you could try going someplace where you know it will happen. So I
Mhm.
once give the example, go to Las Vegas. That's not practical, but just as an example to be dramatic, if you were to go to Las Vegas, orientation would happen. I mean, there's just too much noise, too many people, too many lights, too much activity, too much out there. Your attention will go out there. So I use Vegas. I know it's not practical unless you live there, but just to articulate that it's very easy and automatic and almost predetermined if you're in the right environment. Orientation
Yeah.
happen if you don't. So I would say puzzle out what environment would basically make you orient. And you could start there if it's too difficult to do in the locations that you normally find yourself in.
Yeah, that's really helpful. That's something that I really notice on retreat. When I take people on retreat, we're usually somewhere with very majestic nature, like here in Aspen, where the trees are so big and there's lakes and there's a river. And so it's like, it's almost like orientation enters you, like the invitation just comes in towards you, as opposed to you having to go out and find it. It's like it feels like you're just in the river of orientation. And when we do orienting practice in the morning, we might do it for an hour and a half. I have people go out and find certain plants. Have people go out and look for something that might be interesting that they want to bring back, or come back and bring sounds that they heard or smells that they encountered. And I think one of the challenges to orientation is in these boxes in which we live, I've put a million things to help me orient, from
Mm.
flowers from my garden to particular smells to a quality of light to like an emotional support animal. Like there's all these things are in my environment. I have pictures of my team and of my stepkids on the wall across from me. So I'm seeing the faces of the people I love all day as I'm working. And my computer is facing a sky, a tree, and a lake. So there's a lot I can see out there if I want to look out
Mm.
my window. And I think we can be very intentional. But as a first step, what you're saying is just go somewhere where it'll be inevitable to move into exploration.
Yes. And if 1 hour is not possible, do it for 1 second.
Yeah, that's great. Many 1 seconds in a row.
And if that's not possible, then 1 second, 1 second.
You see how I'm trying to
1 second. Yes.
see how I'm trying to take it to intensity many 1 seconds in a
Yeah,
row.
right, right,
I
right.
think that the inertia is still in there.
Right, right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been a really, really delightful and enlightening conversation. I would love to have you back to talk more.
Happy to.
Where can people find you and connect with you?
Oh, easily. You just do whatever you do to search my name. You'll find me. Bach Ho Organic Intelligence. You'll find me. Bachho.com is my website. I have a YouTube channel, Dr. Bach Ho, I believe. Substack is bachho.substack. I don't remember. You'll find it.
I'll put the links in the show notes and so people can read those below. But from what I understand, you're available to work with people, you're available to explore all of these ways of being. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.